We are live, and we are going to set you up for Saturday, November the 27th, over at Del Mar. Gino Bacola here, along with Matt and with Barry, the sniper, and we're going to take you through race by race at Del Mar because there is a big StableDuel contest. $20,000 up for grabs in the Del Mar Derby, and it's going to cost you $150 to enter in this contest. We are StableDuel fans. We've played this game many times, so we're going to help you share some of our analysis and talk about how you have to build your lineup, because one thing to keep in mind, you cannot play chalk all the way through. It just won't work. You won't be able to put your lineup in, so you have to massage it. You have to kind of figure out one race where you're going to spend up, others where you won't, and very lucky to have Matt and Barry joining me today. Matt, how are we doing, buddy? How was your Thanksgiving? Happy holidays.
Oh, thanks so much. And thanks for having me on, Gino. The holidays were great down here in Greenville, South Carolina, visiting family. I'm drinking Diet Mountain Dew to make sure I stay away from all the turkey that I've had over the last couple of days. So doing great, though, and hope you and yours had a great one. And Barry, hope you guys have had a wonderful Thanksgiving as well.
Sniper, I saw you walking around there, and you were posting some pictures of some great Christmas lights. I saw a big Christmas tree that you were checking out. How was the holidays for you?
Excellent, my man. Spent it down in Orlando for the day, and with some relatives and things like that. And we ended up just kind of taking a walk at a park near where my father-in-law lives, and it just had a great time. Weather was nice, and hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving also.
Well, we are going to make things even nicer for you, and we are going to make a little bit of money today. And at Del Mar, big money up for grabs, $20,000 up for grabs in the pool. And it's going to cost you $150 to enter. There are a bunch of different contests you can enter for StableDuel today. If maybe this contest is a little bit too big for your entry fee, don't worry. There's also a $10 contest you can get into. There's a free ride up at Golden Gate. Tampa Bay Downs has a game, and Woodbine has a game. We are looking at the past performances from DRF.com. These are your daily racing form formulator past performances, and these PPs are available when you go to drf.com, and you have the opportunity right now to use that Black Friday sale. So go and get involved. This is the best place to take advantage of all those sales. And for me, I am the one that's always keying in on, always talking about Del Mar. I'm always talking about DRF past performances, because for me, the replays will show you the charts, the ability to go from pedigree to trainer stats to everything. That makes it so much easier when you're handicapping. So shout out to drf.com. And if you know you're someone who uses the past performances, if you know you're someone who's going to use the clocker reports and all that, just go take advantage right now while everything's on sale, because you can stack up a lot and then you can use the credit for them later on in the year. So we'll be referencing the PPs right here, and we'll jump right on in to race number one. And we'll start with you, Matt. In this opener, we have a first level allowance group going a mile on the turf course here. So who are some of the horses you might be looking at to throw in your lineup to kick things off?
Yeah, it's a nice little field to start off in the first race, I think, and certainly I think the favorite Appreciated is a very good horse. Finished second last time out to Dicey Mochara, who's going to be running in a graded stakes race later that day on the card. So certainly some class there. I don't love the outside post position, so if I'm going to look beyond that, the two horses that I'm looking at that might save you a little bit of money when you're building a stable on StableDuel is Lincoln Hawk at 5-1. That's only going to cost you $6,000. And Law Professor. That's a horse that's coming off a little bit of a layoff, but transitioned to turf last time out and showed, I think, pretty well. And he's only going to cost you $5,000. So
you're in trouble. You're in trouble, because those are the two that I had luck. So I was going to say you're in trouble right off the bat, Matt. But go on a little bit more as you were talking about Law Professor.
Yeah, just, that's one where, again, you're going to get a little bit of value. Transition to turf last time out, so only really had to run on turf once. Was a nice performance, finished on the board. And now has had a little bit of a layoff, and so, but has been working out really well. So I don't think there's any concern there in terms of rust on the horse. So again, for $5,000, I think that's a really nice play in StableDuel contest.
Barry, how are you looking to get this contest kicked off?
Geez, I guess we're all in trouble, because Law Professor was actually my top pick here. I just like the way the horse is coming into this race. It ran a pretty decent number First time on the turf back in June. If the horse has shown anything like what he was doing before he went on the break, he should be really, really good here. And I figured, that horse is probably going to get bet down thanks to Jose Ortiz being out there for the day.
Yeah.
So you might get a bargain for a horse that's probably going to be 5-2, 3-1. And the only other horse I kind of liked in this race was the 4 Gregory's Pride. I think that horse makes a lot of sense in this spot, although has trouble kind of closing the deal. But not an ultra favorite on the morning line, so it's not too bad of a play. You can save a little bit of money there, but those are the only 2 that I really kind of keyed in on.
Yeah, I'm 2-8 in a lot of exotics. Lincoln Hawk faced a pretty good group last time out. In fact,
Yep.
we're going to see the horse who won later on in the stakes race on the card here. Lincoln Hawk drew the inside the last couple starts and was taken back from the inside, was last of 9, about 7 lengths off, and the field started to bunch up. He was just about 4 off, but he was at the rear. He had nowhere to go. And he kind of tipped to the 2 path. Then he got to the outside. He stretched his legs nicely when he got a seam. 2 starts back, he was behind the Grade 2 Twilight Derby winner, Subconscious, who's another one we're going to see in the stakes race later on. So I thought Lincoln Hawk fits pretty well in here. I thought you'll probably want to get Law Professor in the mix too. Barry and Matt were telling you a little bit about Law Professor, but if you just look at some of the races and that he comes out of in the company that he kept, it's really good. That race that he debuted in, that was the Bezos race. Remember Bezos, the Buzzy Baffert horse, and Dream, and that was a really loaded field. And Dream Shake just ran right by him, like he was standing still. And Dream Shake was a really nice horse early on in this year for a while, and then he kind of got a little bit tired, I think, after a couple hard races. You see Rock Your World there, Medina Spirit. Law Professor actually beat a nice horse named Harbored Memories, who came out of that race to win. You see Flashiest, who he was right behind. Flashiest came right out of that race to win the Oceanside. Flashiest is another one who we're going to see in the Hollywood Derby later. So to me, those are 2 that I'm going to be using in a lot of exotics, and definitely like pick 5 kind of horses if you're playing the early ones, but they won't cost you a whole ton either from a StableDuel standpoint. You won't have to spend up a whole bunch on either one of them, because Law Professor at 6-1 will cost you 5,000, and at the 2 Lincoln Hawk at 5-1 would only cost you 6,000. So you wouldn't be breaking the bank either way there with either of them. Even the other horse that Barry mentioned, Gregory's Pride, it's not exactly a chalk here, and it's a pretty consistent horse. You sort of feel like probably going to be pretty close to the front end here on the stretch out, right, Barry?
Yeah, I mean, I think the horse will just get to be wherever the rider wants to put him.
Options.
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a super duper fast pace in this race, so I think that horse can be kind of wherever he kind of chooses or wherever he lands, more than where
need to be anywhere.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that one's just like you said, a consistent type that runs the same race every time. Has trouble winning. I do have to put that out there, but fits with these horses and should put on a good show today.
That is race number 1 at Del Mar. Keep in mind, we are recording right now. It is noon, just after noon Eastern time. Del Mar's first race will go at 3:30 Eastern time, 12:30 Pacific. So plenty of time if you're just joining us. If you haven't handicapped the card, don't worry. We're going to help you out over the next half an hour or so. We're going to go race by race. We'll try to lead you to a few. Plenty of opportunity for you to get the handicapping done and to fire up that StableDuel account and get one of those entries in, at least one of those entries in for this big game. You might have to worry about beating Matt and his dad, though, because I know they've had really good success as of late. Looked like Matt hooked the player the other day, right?
Dad is sticking to the free games at Golden Gate today.
There we go.
Okay. But he loves it. He loves it. He's refreshing. He's constantly refreshing after every race. He can't wait to see his points. So that's
fun, man.
It's a lot of fun. That's the great part about the holidays, coming home to talk to family. Horse racing is a family sport. I think in a lot of ways, a lot of us got introduced to it by family members. And so coming home and sharing this with family, getting other people into the game, always a lot of fun. Even if you are just getting in those free rides or some of those, $2-3 games that they have at, Tampa or during the week at parks or Penn National, places like that.
Yep. And those are great ways, some of the smaller games, to kind of work on your strategy.
Yeah,
You know, work
absolutely.
on kind of test some things out maybe in a free game that you may not try otherwise. And then you can go, you know what? That didn't work for me. At least you didn't feel like you ruined a $20 or $100 entry in doing so.
Yeah.
As we move along from race number 1 to race number 2 on this Saturday Del Mar card. So we have a 50 starter allowance in here, Barry. We're going to go to the main track. We'll be going 6.5 furlongs and just a small field in here. So who are you looking at to use in your lineup in this one, Barry?
Well, there's a couple of things that you can do here, strategy wise, but I'm just going to talk about who I like first.
Sure.
Because I looked at the 2-horse Little Miss Ellie and definitely has the right to be a 6-5 favorite here. But I can't trust a horse like that at a big price, to take in StableDuel.
Absolutely.
I just can't trust it. I want a horse that I think that has a really good chance to win. Not that Little Miss Ellie doesn't have a really good chance to win. I just don't like to bet horses or play horses that look like this.
I agree.
Just runs okay all the time. 1 for 13 lifetime, 5 seconds. That's what you're going to get. And I don't think 6-5 for me is not the way to go with a horse like that. You need a bigger price.
No.
So the rest of the horses kind of feel like it's almost the same way. It's like everybody should probably be about the same price, in my opinion.
Yep.
But I guess they had to, when you're making morning lines, you got to make somebody the favorite. But that, I just kind of by attrition landed on Mongolian Panther.
Yep.
Just
That's great.
Just because everybody else didn't look that great. This one doesn't look that great either, but has a little bit of an upside. Should be well placed. Hopefully Edwin Maldonado can get him right where he needs to be, not quite on the lead, but not too far back, kind of mid-pack sort of thing, maybe even stalking.
He actually might be able to get the lead in this field.
He could if nobody goes.
If she does cutting back, she's going to be tough. Now, I think the outside horse might just send the fresh horse with the Vow, who's going to be stretching out. So I think the 5 sends, but if the 3 can just track right behind, she could be really tough to pass and just kind of fall right into it. Because this race is a lot softer than that race that she exits last time out. I mean, you look at that group right there, and Mraz was actually a horse who had faced tough company throughout. We've already seen a couple of horses come out of this race to win next out. Like, look at Mraz. She was in the Oaks. She's a horse who's multiple graded stakes placed. Like, she has some quality to her. We also saw another horse, Nice Ice, come out of that race to win next out, to win a first level allowance race next out of there. That's become a very productive race for Mongolian Panther. So, Barry, we're on the same one. And I saw you nodding a little bit. Go ahead, Barry.
I was going to say, so, I had the notion, because of this small field, is to take 3 horses in this race.
And it might be a good call, right? At least 2. At least 2, because you have to take a race today where you double up, because there's only 9. So one of them you're going to be doubling up. This is a small field, and this is a race where you might be able to get a couple that aren't going to cost you a ton to pay for 2 in the same race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was thinking 3, and try to hit the triple. And it really all hinges on what you think with this Vow is going to do, the 5. If that horse can hang around, if you think that horse can hang around, I would include him or her. If not, toss her and use the others. There's not many horses here. You only really have to beat 1 or 2. So, it's worth a shot, maybe.
And what makes it hard, Matt, is, with this Vow, I think could absolutely win this race.
Yep.
And we know Ellis is a very capable barn, but you're going to be talking about taking a short price on a horse with a barn that's been struggling. They've had a year where they've been really cold. So do you want to take a really short price on a horse off of a long layoff? We don't really even know if she quite won. I mean, she won going 6.5 furlongs, but this is going to be tough off of that long of a layoff too, going 6.5. Where did you stand in here, Matt?
Yeah, I also identified Mongolian Panther as a horse I really liked. And I think particularly in this race, and it gets to Barry's point, if I'm spending, from a StableDuel standpoint, $9,800 on a horse like Little Miss Ellie, going off at 6-5, I better be incredibly sure that horse is going to win and get me 60 points. And I'm not. That horse, I think at best is going to get me 40 and probably 30. And so I just don't necessarily feel comfortable with that. So, and that's the only reason I'm a little hesitant to play the triple, just because I think I'd have to include Little Miss Ellie in there. And that's a lot of money to place on a horse that's going to finish second or third.
You'd rather go 2 and not use her.
I almost would. I'd rather almost maybe hit first and third or something like that with Mongolian Panther, and maybe Roses and Candy, probably Smooth Like Butter Smooth Like Butter. Sorry, at 3-1, but. Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in Win This Vow, and so I like the 1 and the 3 a little bit more, and so but this is going back to your point you made initially, Gino. This is where I think this is where free games are really helpful to play that strategy that Barry talked about. I'm going to try to triple up on a race or double. I mean, you're going to have to double up on at least on one race today, but tripling up. If you're going to do it in any field, this is the one to do it because, like you said, it's a 5-horse field, so you only have to beat 2. So
we get with Mongolian. I think one of the positives too that Barry mentioned, when you get Edwin Maldonado jumping on, it's not always, but I would say 80% of the time, you're going to get speed. He's going, and honestly, he is a top tier rider at getting a horse to break fast and go. I wonder a lot of times why people who have really fast horses don't get people like Edwin to ride them, because he can do that really well. He may have some other, maybe you don't want him going long on the turf with the horse coming from way out of it. But if you're talking about getting a horse out front, he has a very good clock and he gets them to break and open up, and he doesn't really get cute. Like, he very rarely grabs a hold of a horse that's fast. He knows that if a horse is fast, that's their weapon, that they're going to go. So I actually very much like Maldonado most of the time, because most of the time I'm playing him, I'm expecting him to be on a speed horse and to do that. And you get a good run for your money at least. And I hope that with Mongolian Panther, we're sitting like second in here with the opportunity to kind of loom up and go by with this vow maybe. And if not, we're not good enough, that's fine. But I kind of feel like that's the way that this race may shape up. She broke right with the leaders. She was right on top last time out, but she was not asked at all. And the horse came up the inside of her. She ends up getting shuffled back to third. Then she's in between. The ride, you can see she just kind of like loses ground. And it's really sort of a tough trip. She just never got a shot. I think you'll get a much more aggressive ride with Mongolian Panther in here. So we are all in this short field in agreement in that this is probably not one that we feel like we want to spend up. There's going to be a race or two where you'll probably hear us say, yeah, we'll spend up in this race, but this was not the one for any one of us that we felt all that confident, which means Little Miss Ellie wins by 10.
Exactly.
As we move along, no doubt about it, right? So we move along to race number 3 here. And I like a horse that I wanted to pull up the replay and show. And we'll talk a little bit about the number 1 Lucky Girl in the replay, because she did have some legitimate trouble last time out. And Lucky Girl, who is the number 8 in the race that we're going to watch, she's the number 1 in this field today. And she hops at the start a little bit. And so you can see she's behind now. And then she runs kind of right into traffic. Watch what happens in the first turn. She moves to the outside. She ends up 4 deep and in between horses going into the turn, and she's kind of bumping around. It's like not a good look at her right here. She's uncomfortable. She's kind of bumping, jock standing up. She's 4 deep. She's losing all this ground, and that's while she's in between horses. So she just gives up a ton right there early on. She's kind of hard to handle too at this point. They can't really get her settled all that well, but she's in a bad spot right here. She's just stuck in between horses. She's wide and in between horses, which is just brutal, like where you don't want to be at all. She's kind of asked to go, but she gets stopped in between. I thought it was just a brutally tough trip in here. And if you look back, she was actually favored in that race last time out in her first start in the US. And while she didn't win, and, you look at the running line, yeah, she was beaten 5 lengths. Well, we can see she had trouble, and she's got the benefit of that race in North America under her belt. Whereas you have a horse like Duvet Day, who, how crazy that she actually ran against Duvet Day when they ran against each other in Ireland. Like, you ran against each other in Ireland in July, and now all of a sudden, a few months later, you're in completely different barns and you're going to run against each other in the same race at Santa Anita. That's so bizarre to me. But she's got that jump on Annie's Song and on Duvet Day. She's got the benefit of the fitness to me. So I think I give her a little bit of the edge in here. She's 5-1 on the morning line. If she's anything around 7-2, I'll make a win wager on her. I think she probably will get bet a little bit because of that traffic trouble that people will see, and you get Johnny V jumping aboard. So lots of positives for her. But another one who's right in that range in StableDuel, where that's sort of like your average that you're shooting for in the 5,000 to 6,000 range. You need to be able to stack 5,000s all the way through. So she'll cost me 6,000 in here. Lucky girl. Where are you going to head in race number 3, Matt?
Yeah, the turf races provide some really nice large fields.
Yep.
And so I also am actually looking at a horse that was actually in that race and also is coming in at 5-1. And that's very scary. I think that's a horse that for, 5-1 for $6,000, very consistent horse. You kind of know what you're going to get. I'm not sure it's going to win, but for 6,000, I don't necessarily need this horse to win, but I feel very comfortable with this horse hitting the board and getting me positive points. And again, at 5-1, that's not bad value considering that, you're looking at Sterling Crest, which is a very good horse. I'll say the
Yep.
morning line favorite at 7-2. I think appropriately the morning line favorite, but because you look at that, who Sterling Crest ran against. Time out, Cairo Memories, Helenswell, Hermely. I mean, that's a murderer's row of horses right there. So very classy, but I like Very Scary for much the same reason, that you talked about in terms of just value that it presents in terms of StableDuel. I think I know what I'm going to get there. And, it has run kind of at this level before and done well. So I like identifying those $5,000 to $6,000 horses a lot of times because it allows you to spend up for those $8,000, $9,000 horses that you're going to have to get in some of those games.
Yep. Barry, where are we headed in race number 3?
Well, you guys kind of touched on a horse that I really like here. I just don't think this horse can lose this race is Sterling Crest. I did take a long look at Lucky Girl, but I think, and this is just me speculating, that being down inside is probably not going to be ideal for this horse.
That's a great point because that's what we know she's quirky. Right.
Right. And it looks like she wanted to get out, out and around and didn't want to kind of be in between horses.
That's a great point.
And, I just think they may run into the same kind of problems as last time. And I just don't want to gamble on that, especially the horse is going to get bet down. I mean, at least as far as, placing a wager on this horse through the windows. But in a StableDuel situation, this horse can run, and that the horse can run despite some trouble. Mm-hmm. Because she didn't run all that bad, and it was actually kind of surprising to me that she ended up being the chalk. But I mean, this is another one where you could actually go too deep and go the 3-1. The Baltus Exacta basically, because there's really not much in here, and I'm not really enthused with Annie's Song, although I think that horse is going to attract a lot of attention because Pratt's aboard.
And the horse Zane Claudette, who you see in the running lines, that was the horse who was supposed to run in the Breeders' Cup, so there will be some buzz. But I kind of agree with you. Like, she's fine. She wouldn't shock me, but it didn't get my blood boiling,
Correct, yeah. And the horse that actually, at a price that I kind of took a really long look at second time out is the 12 Fluent. I think, Mandela does kind of gives horses a race now, and this one was kind of overbet, I thought, in the debut.
I agree.
But probably would be a lot better this time and a lot better price. So that one was definitely on my radar. Balabali was a pretty damn good turf horse in his own right. So I expect some talent to be there with Rogue at a Quality Road on the bottom side. So I wouldn't discount that one at a big price either.
Fun race here. Matt's very scary. He's going to be, flashing some speed here,
Yep.
and the couple towards the inside that we mentioned. There's nothing wrong with Duvet Day, who shut out Burt Baccarat. What do you get when you fall in love? Burt Baccarat and Miss Elvis Costello, ladies and gentlemen. It always reminds me of that scene from Austin Powers too, right? You know,
the other thing I'll just mention with Barry's point about Fluent is one of the things you have to keep in mind when you're playing StableDuel is Del Mar in particular has a lot of small fields, and you don't get a lot of big prices on horses. And
this
so
is a great opportunity.
You have to be very smart about where you find those $750 or $1,000 horses to bat, because everybody's going to need them. And if you really like one in a race, you got to take it here. This is a good opportunity to take one. I think there's maybe one or two in those later stakes races we'll get to, but this is a good opportunity to save some money.
That's a great point. It's a lot of it comes down to, okay, you handicap the card. That's one thing. And that's another, and then you start to look at it from a StableDuel standpoint. Okay, where are the races where I'm going to try to zig when everyone zags? Where are the favorites that I don't want to go win, where I think everyone's going to jump in? And you have to kind of approach it differently, just the same way you would when you're structuring a ticket, right? You're putting together a pick 4 or a pick 5. That's different than if you're just betting to win every race, or betting a trifecta, or betting a superfecta. Heck, when you handicap races, I'm looking for horses that finish second and third that I'm trying to beat on the win end, that I would absolutely want all the time in my exactas and my trifectas, So it all comes down to just, we got to be base. Sometimes it's so simple, but just reminding yourself what you're doing, right? Like, okay, in this sense, I'm looking at the trifecta or the exacta. In StableDuel, we want someone to hit the board. We want a horse who you get a good feel for. So, a horse like Fluent in here, as Barry mentioned, some positive reasons to use. And then Matt mentioned from a money standpoint and from how much this horse costs you, maybe a little bit added incentive to use this one in race number 3. Let's jump into the 4th. We've got 16,000 claimers going 6 furlongs on the main track in here. So we'll start with you in this one, Matt. Who are you looking at? We just have a field of 6 in here.
Yeah, I think, this is another one. We talked about it before. Maybe you try to go 2, try to go 3 in this particular field. I like Dozo, the 5. I think this is a horse that's going to get the lead pretty easily. And I don't think it's going to be pressed. And at 5-2, I mean, it's not great, but your morning line favorite, Miss Allegria, is at 9-5. That's going to cost you a pretty penny. I'd rather go with a horse like Dozo that's going to cost you a little bit less. Turf Sprints, I typically like a horse that's going to get on the lead. Is a horse that won at a $20,000 claimer last time out. So, a modest step down to a $16,000 claimer. So again, I think there's something to like there, and it's a way to avoid betting the favorite or avoid having to pay for the favorite in this particular race. So I like Dozo, the 5.
Barry, I don't know if you like this horse, but just knowing you, my friend, I feel like there might have been a stupid person out there once or twice that you would have said, "Did I stutter too? Did I stutter?"
That was my number 2 horse.
All the time. What do you mean? It's too many times I've said it.
I was going to say, I feel like sometimes you're just looking at someone like, "Did I stutter? Come on." Right?
But that actually is my pick. That's my pick.
There we go.
I think that horse, since that horse came out to California, they were kind of overzealous with the placing.
Yep.
And that first one at Del Mar back in July, it was way over that horse's head. And even the last one kind of on the turf didn't really make a lot of sense. I think they just tried it just to try it. But now they're in a more winnable spot and probably a better position. And I'm actually thinking the opposite of Matt. I think actually Did I Stutter might want to be on the front end.
Okay.
I think he's just a little bit quicker, or she's just a little bit quicker than the 5. I want her to be on the lead. If she's not, then we may be in a little bit of trouble if she gets too far back. But those two seem to be like the race is going to go through either one of those two horses.
From a tactical standpoint, I agree.
Correct.
Yeah. Like how it shapes up. Absolutely.
The two at 9-5 is a tough to take here. I know she has some decent figures back in 2020, but really hasn't done much this year. The last win she has was at a non-winners of 3 level, and the starter allowance those start allowance races are pretty tough.
Yeah.
So it is a drop in class, but I can't
Yeah.
trust a horse like that at
No,
9 to
not
5.
that running that poorly in the last couple, and knowing what we know about this barn too. That's just something to keep in mind with the Peter Miller barn. Like, this is it for them the next few days. So some of these horses, you have to wonder if they're just kind of dropping them to get rid of them.
Unload them. Yeah.
Honestly, like they're probably not going to have as much for the new barn, and the assistant trainer that takes over probably going to come out starting with a little bit more limited stock, or maybe even the opposite. Like, maybe some of these he's like, I'm just going to try to win as many races as I can in my last couple of days, right? And because he's a super competitive guy, like, maybe that's what happens. So just an added factor to keep in mind when you're looking at these races. I think I'm going to end up on the 3 big stretch, just because, I dig into her races a little bit more, and she might be better on the dirt. She's been on the turf quite a bit, and her dirt form is actually not bad. Look at her last couple dirt races. So she went on the dirt 6.5 at the 16 non-2 level last time out, and she was a fine second. Now she is just a single winner facing multiple winners, so that concerns me a little bit. But from a race shape standpoint, I think she will at least be able to grind in and pick up a piece of this, because she'll close. I'm just a little bit worried that maybe 6 is too short for her. Now, she did break her maiden at 6, but I just think she's better going probably 6.5 or 7. That would be a more beneficial trip for her. But I do think there are versions of this race where maybe it's a riddle because she draws the rail. Maybe she feels forced to go a little bit with Edwin, and then Dozo feels a little bit forced. Dozo is going to go, and like Barry said, maybe Did I Stutter from the outside doesn't want to let them stay too, doesn't want to let them get too far away, and that may set up for a horse like Big Stretch. So I don't love her in this spot, but sort of seeing how the race, I think, will play out in my head, I think she's one that will benefit and kind of pick up some pieces.
Hard to love anybody in this field. They all like the other one. They all kind of look the same. It's just a matter of who may be feeling good today rather than somebody else. Yeah.
From like a class standpoint, you're right.
And the other thing, I know tactically, you and I have talked about this before, that you want to put a bet on every race, because it maximizes the number of points you can potentially get in StableDuel. But if there's a race, if you're out there, not necessarily this one, but if you just go, I don't feel confident about any of these horses, then skip and go to a race where you do feel confident and try to get 100 points out of a race rather than end up with.
Usually when I feel that way, I'll take the longest shot.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. That's why I hate even like making a pick in races like that, because then your pick wins, right?
Right.
And they're like 10-1, and you're like, I didn't even like this horse that much, but I love the next, and you're all like frustrated about it. I like sometimes I'd rather like not even make the pick. And shout out, if it is that horse, to Billy Koch, who was on with us last week. That's Little Red Feather with the 3 big stretch. So if that one got in the winner's circle, he would be happy. I know he did a good job last week when he was helping us out, and he made a little money placing in that StableDuel contest. As we move from race 4 to race 5, the first of a couple graded stakes races on the card. So the back half of this card, very, very strong. As we get to race number 5, we've got the grade 2 Seabiscuit here. We're going to go a mile into 16th on the turf course. Let's get to you, Barry. Who are you going to use in this 5th race?
Another one where I just think the 7 Sacred Life is just a standout here.
I do too.
The horse has just been keeping way better company and finishing well. It seems to like Del Mar a little bit. Ran in this race last year and almost doing the exact same move.
Yep.
Except this time coming from the Knickerbocker rather than that allowance race at Keeneland into this race. Probably should have won last year. Just got swallowed up late by Next Shares, which
I think it was 2019 or 2 years ago.
2019, yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
It was because no, yeah, but you're right. It was because I was looking. I was like,
it's the same move. Yeah, 2 years later.
same exact move. Come out of that allowance race at Keeneland, came right into the Seabiscuit, was favored, and had legitimate trouble that day too.
Yep, absolutely. So I just think that horse, has the right time, and this is just today's the day for that horse. I would think that horse is going to be well below 8 to 5,
4 to 5. I'd say even.
Yeah, I was going to say closer to even money, but I mean, if you want to try to go with 2 in here, I thought Majestic Eagle had a pretty good shot to probably close from deep and maybe pick up some of the pieces.
Because what makes this race tough to try to beat Sacred Life, not only is he the class of the field, the race shape looks like it's going to be perfect for him, right? If this was a type of field where there wasn't a lot of early speed, then you'd say, oh, I'll try to beat him, right? Because he's going to come from out of it, and he's kind of a deeper closer. But right to the inside, you've got Lambo, who, shout out, I don't think Lambo has Tovid. So shout out to Lambo, who will probably be able to be the one to catch out there. Lambo, you got Bob and Jackie, who's going to be close and at least wants to be pressing there. And you've got Field Pass, who's kind of versatile, but Flop Shot is sort of the wild card, who you'd imagine doesn't want to be too far out of it either.
Even
the one from the
might
rail,
have to get
right?
Position.
Get good positioning. So now we're looking at this race where, heck, there could be versions of this race where 4 or 5 of them are close up, kind of all working for position, while Sacred Life is just chilling in the back, just waiting, and going to press the button. So, you won't hear me many times throughout a card preach, that I think this heavy favorite is a standout and the one to beat. But Matt, for me, I thought that this was probably a spot that I was okay with paying up.
Absolutely. This is the spot where you save, right? This is where you're trying to save money in the other races, because this is where you feel very confident spending $9,400.
Yep.
No, Sacred Life is outstanding in this spot. And, this is one, depending on how you structure your stable, I do like Field Pass. I think probably to come in second, maybe. But again, that's going to see how the race plays out. Does that speed do people start melting down the stretch, and how does that play out? So this is one, if you have a lot of money and you want to play 2 expensive horses up top, maybe. I will just point out, I know people sometimes like to play this angle. Bob and Jackie is kind of a horse for a course a little bit, with winning 3 times out of 6 races at Del Mar, and so, but a lot of that was in 2020. This year, it's not been quite as strong. But I know sometimes people do like to play that angle, and this is a horse that's giving you a little bit of value there underneath. But,
he had a weird trip 2 starts back to, where it looked like he was the lone speed in that race. And you could tell they were going 24 and change, and they went 49 and change, almost 50 to the half mile. And he was cruising on the front end. But the winner of that race, North County guy, made this early middle move, and it just caught Bob and Jackie like sleeping up front. And he got shuffled behind, and then he had it kind of came on again, and he ran second. It was pretty good. And that race at Kentucky was excellent behind Snapper Sinclair. That was a really, really good effort. And he's honest. He'll fight. He will be like in the mix, and he will try really hard. But I can imagine Sacred Light just getting so much nice pace to run into here with the way this race feels like it's going to shape up. So,
and to point out, to everybody's point, I mean, the last time out at the Knickerbocker, I mean, that was a pretty honest pace. It wasn't even a hot pace, and he still made up like 9.5 lengths. I mean, he's just got an incredible turn of foot. So when this horse pushes the button, forget about it.
Chad Brown has done a really great job sending horses out here for a lot of these races, these turf races in late November, post Breeders' Cup, the last couple of years. And he's got some live ones again today in this 5th race here, the Seabiscuit. Let's move along to race number 6. This one does kick off your late pick 4 here. One more time, if you're just joining us, we are looking at the Daily Racing Form past performances, and Daily Racing Form right now has a huge Black Friday sale, and it goes all the way throughout the weekend. So even into Monday, where you can get massive discounts on all of the Daily Racing Form products. So if you know that you're going to use the past performances, classic past performances, or for me, I'm Formulator, as I'm showing. It makes it so nice with Formulator because you can click to the charts, you can click to the race replays, you can click to the pedigree information, you can click to the trainer stats, and it's all right here in this same tab. So go right now, stock up. That way, Gulfstream, think about what's coming up over the next few weeks. It's kind of a little quiet time for about a couple weeks in racing over the next few, and then we get to Barry's neck of the woods with that championship meet down in Gulfstream when they kick off down there. Santa Anita opens up, and they're going to be rolling. Heck, right after the new year, one of my favorite racetracks to play, Sam Houston, with that low takeout, they're going to be rolling again. So lots going to be happening. Make sure to stock up drf.com right now. Take advantage of that big sale and load up with all of the products that you're going to be using as we shift into race number 6. Matt, we've got an optional 50 group here. We're going to go back to the dirt, and we're going to go 7 furlongs with some young 2-year-old fillies. So how are you approaching this race?
Yeah, this is one where there's kind of to your point, there's like the difference between handicapping and then maybe the StableDuel pick here.
Yep.
And so this is one where I do, the favorite I really do like, Awesome Taylor, the number 2 horse, ran a really impressive maiden, $50,000 maiden claiming, came in second to Talkative Gal. I thought, ran a pretty nice speed figure that first time out. I think is a very good horse. That said, if I don't want to pay 9,000, I don't mind playing the 3 here. Suetta's Ghost. This is a horse that it's interesting. If you look at like US time form, it's got some slightly different speed figures and this one is, DRF and Bayer speed figures is pretty comparable to some other horses in the field. It's run right behind Maggie Fitzgerald, which is another horse that's in this field. It's one last time out. This is a step up in class, no doubt about it. But I don't know, at 8-1, it might be worth a shot. This is another one where I don't necessarily love a ton of horses in this field. So if I'm gonna have to throw a long shot, I don't hate throwing a little bit of action at the 3, but I do like the 2 up top. I think Awesome Taylor's a really good horse.
Barry, when you and I were doing those Friday live streams during the month of October with Darren Zocali, one of the races that we talked about was the October 29th race that the 1 Miss Reno and the 7 You To Your Honor both come out of. Blinkers go on for the 7 in here. The 1 Miss Reno was off slowly and then never really got involved. Do you think either of them have a shot, or how do you approach this race? Who are you using?
Yeah, Miss Reno is a horse that you, or at least I kind of want to like, but I can't like that horse at 5-2.
I know that's the problem.
It gets into trouble every time out of the gate, and just what are you going to get? Both times she lost, it was by 17 lengths,
right.
And then won once in a maiden claimer 30,000 at Los Al. I mean, I can't endorse this horse today.
He feels like a type of horse who you'd want to play at 5-1. Right?
Yeah.
Just like, because there's this possibility.
There's an element of gamble there because, it's like, yeah, you're like, well, the horse could probably run, but
and maybe
is the horse actually going to run today?
From the rail. If she breaks well, she might get the lead. Pratt's jumping aboard, sure. But if she doesn't break well from the rail, this is kind of piggybacking on your other point earlier with the 1 horse that I liked in the 3rd who had a little bit of trouble. When you have a horse who's shown to break slow and to have some trouble, well, do you want him to draw the rail? Yeah, she won from the rail 2 back, but you only have so much of a margin for error in a sprint race when you break slow repeatedly over and over, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I can't feel comfortable taking a short price on that horse. Like you said, probably 5-1 or better is probably key, but you're not going to get that in StableDuel because that horse is 5-2 on the line. But I thought the interesting horse here was the 5 Maggie Fitzgerald.
Sure.
I think you can just completely toss out that turf race last time. It looks like they just tried to get a race into her. I like the really fast work that she put up on November 22nd.
Yep.
Pointing to this race, and the 2 races prior to that that grass effort were really good. Beat Suetta's Ghost to break the maiden there. So I really don't understand why this horse is 5-1 on the line, but I'll take it. I don't think we're going to get that through the windows, but I think this horse is a lot better than what she looks on paper. And Awesome Taylor looks like kind of a horse that's going to take a lot of money and not do a lot lot. I get the connections. Irad jumps aboard.
She's gonna take a ton.
Yeah, she's gonna take a lot of money, and it's strange. Obviously they're trying something, but this horse hasn't won a race yet.
Still is a maiden.
Still a maiden above everything else. Just on the surface. So I can't say that this horse is that much better than these. That horse should be favored and will win.
Yeah.
So I'm betting against those 2 things. So I landed on Maggie Fitzgerald. Your Honor looks pretty decent as well. I
Yeah,
can see some improvement there too.
that's where I think I'm going to land. And because I think with the 7 furlongs is what I like with you, Your Honor, who I think where a couple of these it might get a little tired come the 6.5 point. That horse from the outside should be at the very least passing some horses here. I like that she was really impressive in her debut, and then in her most recent start, she faced open company. She went from Calbreds to open, and she actually was fine. She was good. It was fine. The horse who won that day, that was the race, another race we talked about that day. That same one that horse kind of just fell into the trip. 12:30 that day.
Oh man,
was
yeah.
Sitting second and just kind of took over
Thanks.
the lead and kicked on, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
kicked on. And it was wow. It was one of those where nobody else was moving, and it was the only horse who was really kind of closing and making up any ground whatsoever was this horse to the outside. So I think I said 7. It's the 6. To Your Honor, there aren't any 7s in here. So that's the outside runner in here. People are like,
yeah, I'm usually of the when in doubt, take the biggest price.
Yeah,
the bigger
yeah.
price. That's really what happened. And I didn't really like that 12:30 race too much. I thought, like you said, it was a little weird.
It
was a little weird.
Lowly graded too, from just a speed figure standpoint.
Yeah.
And Maggie Fitzgerald, I think in late pick 4 situations, she's a great horse to throw in.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because she probably plays bigger than 5-1 in here too, if a lot of money gets thrown in on Awesome Taylor. So are we talking Heineke? We're not Jonathan Taylor. We talking Taylor Swift? Who are we?
All of the above.
Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights, Clear Eyes, Full Hearts. Is that where we're going here? I'm always curious with the names. When I see the names, I'm always in my head, the crazy Gino is who is this named after? Taylor who? That's I always want to.
Are we Miss Reno? Or are we talking Janet Reno? Or are we talking? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Here we go. Exactly, Matt. Exactly. As we move along. Start of the late pick 3 and other graded stakes. We have still 2 of graded stakes. 2 of the final 3 races on the card at Del Mar are graded stakes today. And we get to the Jimmy Durante, the grade 3 Jimmy Durante. Let's start with you in this one, Barry. Who are you looking at as they go a mile on the turf course, 2-year-old fillies?
Yeah, this is a really good race.
Yeah.
Very competitive. I think there's a lot of directions you can go here. And I'm going to throw one downfield. I'm going to take the 9, 12:30, who I just slandered.
That's great.
To the nth degree. But
that's so great.
I just think that this is a way better spot for this horse getting on the turf. I just think this horse has a lot of upside. There's some grass pedigree there. And the other horse that kind of caught my eye was the 7. At a big price too. The Dam Strone, 4 turf winners, 1 stakes winner. So this is just not a race that I can sit well with a horse like Helen's Well, who is going to take a lot of money from the 11
and
post.
She's the
has
one
every right to win, right?
She'll come running, and she will be the one to beat. But I very much agree with you about the handicap of this race, and especially in the StableDuel standpoint. There are some fun big prices to kind of sink your teeth into in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally anybody has a shot to win this race, and that's how I felt.
I got a bomb too.
Even the 4 tourists.
That's my bomb. That's my bomb. So you're talking about the 4. Let's go up there a little bit too. Yeah. So Terrace, who debuts at Saratoga, and she's in a race going 5.5 furlongs on the turf that comes back super, super productive. Look at all the next out winners. Bubble Rock, Leah Marina, Champagne Cami all came back to win next out. Bubble Rock was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf and had trouble that day, missed the break. This is a grade 3 winner, and this horse was only 7-1 in the Breeders' Cup. Bubble Rock. Just to give you an idea of how tough that race was and how good that company was. In career start number 2, you see Terrace is behind Consumer Spending, who comes out of that race to go to Laurel and to win a stakes race. And then after that race, Consumer Spending also goes and runs in the Breeders' Cup. And Consumer Spending is not a big price at all. It was only beaten less than 2 lengths in the Breeders' Cup at 6-1 in the Juvenile Fillies turf. So those 2 races, we're talking about top-notch company that Terrace has kept. And then in career start number 3, it's sort of like she was handled like how you handle a horse that you think is well meant in the race and that you think is like the best. You just kind of get aggressive with them. You're like, hey, you know what? We're coming out of better races. Let's put this horse close to the front end and not let anything cute happen. Don't get in trouble. She's not going to get that kind of trip in here. She's not going to be on the lead because there's some other legitimate speeds. So she'll be, she has options. They can kind of just place her wherever the race is. She's a big price. Like Barry and I are going deep sea fishing in here for some bombs because she's 15-1. And like Matt said, you're going to have to find one of these throughout the card. There's got to be one race or two for you where you're looking for a horse that's over 10. For me and Barry, both, this is the race. We're just looking at slightly different horses. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I agree with you guys on obviously, trying to throw a bomb here in this race because the other reason to point out is I think this is going to be a pretty hot pace up front between Awake at Midnight and Liam's Dove. And so that's why I think this is a great race to throw a bomb at because when the speed just falls apart like this, then you never know who's going to come and clean up the pieces. So you might as well get a price.
We get the Breeders' Cup distaff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get the Aloha West discount. And so, it is. It's the other horse that I'm looking at, just to mention kind of a different horse. And to Barry's point, you could go a lot of different ways in this race. I'll just bring up a horse, Travel Smart. That's going off at 6-1. It's a horse that made a transition last time out from dirt to turf and saw its buyer speed figures go up 31 points. So clearly this horse likes turf a lot more. This is a huge step up, obviously, from maiden claiming to a grade 3. But you have Flavia on a board, and that's sometimes just kind of like an X factor with things. And, you never know what's going on with Pete Miller's barn. It could go, are we just throwing horses out, or is this kind of a lethal, horse that has a shot? So, that was a horse.
From just like a pure gauge standpoint, right? He's got a great idea of where these horses stack up. He's got another runner in this race, the Tezeray. So I don't think he would put a horse like this in this field if he thought that his other horse was worlds better than her. And that's just me in my head thinking about how I would do it, right? Like if you got if you got your two kids and one of them is a couple years older and their level is what, you don't want them kind of beating up on each other with everything, right? You want to kind of like help them out because you never know how it's going to happen. So it's a great point too with Travel Smart in a race that is a very, very good betting race. This is a really good race in the pick 4s and in the pick 5s. We've all been sniffing out horses that we think are going to pay double digit a price if they were to win this race. So this is definitely a fun spread out race.
And this could also just be a chalk race. Like it could totally be Helen's Well and Sparkle Blue up top. Like, I mean, I would not be surprised at all to see that, but that's what makes it fun. I mean, it could go just so many different ways in this one.
And with their running styles, like you said, where the race probably will, like, you look at and handicap and think, okay, they'll probably get the pace to run at. They are deeper closers who could very easily get into traffic. They're going to have to negotiate and navigate a trip from the back at a shortish kind of price. So, we all got a little bit excited by some others in here as we move along. Start of your late daily double is in race number 8, first level allowance company here at Del Mar. They're going to go 6.5 furlongs on the main track. So let's go back to you, Matt, and start with you in here. Who are you looking to use in your lineup in this group? Sumo, probably going to take a lot of money from the outside.
Yeah, Sumo's certainly going to take a lot of money, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I understand why people like that horse a lot. I do worry this is another one that might be a pretty fast pace. I think the 2 Took Charge might also press. So that's the only reason I'm a little concerned about Sumo, just because will that horse wilt a little bit toward the end, and will you get a closer that comes up and kind of snags things? I like Escape Route quite a bit. The 6 horse going off at 4-1, paying $7,000 on StableDuel, so you're saving a little bit of money. I think this is another pretty consistent horse that has shown the class to hit the board, 2 wins, 2 seconds, and a third in 5 starts. So there's a lot to like there. I mean, this is a slight step up from its last race, but it's been running at this kind of 72,000, 63,000 starter allowance or allowance racing, I should say. So I like a little bit of it's not a great value necessarily, but I like saving a little bit of money off of Sumo and going with Escape Route in this race.
Barry, in race number 8, where are you headed?
To the horse I like most on the card today, actually. the 9 American Theorem.
Nice.
I just think this horse is a lot better than what they're giving the horse credit for in the morning line.
This is a good animal. This is a horse who was
yes, very
battled
good
it
horse.
out with,
Just can't stay on the
Nadal.
track. Just always hurt.
Yeah.
Obviously the running lines will suggest that. In 2019 ran 2 really good races, and one in a Grade 1. Then came back.
I mean, and it's funny, he outfinished the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner.
Exactly.
In the American Pharaoh. He was second in the race that stormed the court, came right back out of that to win. It shows you how good he was off of that maiden win, because for a smaller barn, George Papapadromo, who can get the job done with horses out here in Southern California, but they're not like a household name of a barn that's going to attract money. This horse was only 7-1 in that race, in that Grade 1 race. Second time out. That just shows you right there that this horse has always had ability.
Right, and the problem is just keeping the horse together.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine it's some sort of foot issue or something.
Yeah.
But didn't like the slop at Oaklawn, and probably may have gotten hurt that day, because you don't really see the horse again for a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
And then ran great last time, and I don't understand why this horse is 5-1 on the morning line. There's no way this horse is going to be 5-1.
No.
American Theorem, who, if we're
This
talking,
was my second horse, by the way. This was my 2. I'm actually thinking about going 1-2 in this one with Escape Route and American Theorem, because that's $11,000 combined, and I like those 2 a lot.
He's drawn really well towards the outside too with his running style, so that'll make it a little easier for him if he can track off. He doesn't have to be forced. If he was down inside and he was coming off a little bit of a layoff, he might be fresh and kind of keyed up, but he can kind of track a little bit nicely from the outside. I mean, Sumo it's funny because that race, Triple Trap was really good in that race. That was in the Breeders' Cup undercard. And I'm not really, maybe it's the extra distance for Sumo. I'm kind of against him on the win end. I do like the 3 a little bit in here, California Street. And mainly because he's just really honest. He may not be quite as good as a couple in here, but I think he's going to get some pace to run at. And I feel like the 6.5 will help him quite a bit. And it might hurt a few others. So California Street, who they've thrown him in some good spots. Like he would win an allowance race or he'd run well, and then they put him in against graded stakes. And they did that a couple different times with him. But now, after back-to-back victories, he's in good form. Seems like Rispoli just knows him well and knows when to press the button. So I will go to California Street here in race number 8, as we go in a few different directions: California Street, Escape Route, and then the 9 American Theorem. But again, I think this is another race where if you take one thing from this stream that we did, the one race that we all kind of agreed on the short price to take was in that same race in the 5th with Sacred Life. And some of the other races we all felt like, maybe, these are races to spread out. So maybe take that into account for StableDuel, and for if you're playing a pick 5 or something, maybe that's a good rate to single. And then you can play some horses to try to get there. You can use a lot of horses just to try to get to that 5th race, if that's how you want to approach it. But we are going to be heading into the 9th race, the Hollywood Derby, the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby. And I know Barry is going to be sitting right up close to those leaderboard standings on StableDuel. He's going to be trying to close it out here and win in this Hollywood Derby. And gosh, a pretty good race in here. Yeah, Public Sector, who ships in for Chad Brown. You've got Flashiest, who's been a really fun, kind of good local horse. Zaffarelli had legitimate trouble last time out. Camp Hope was awesome in his last 2 races at Keeneland. Subconscious has strung together 3 wins in a row, and he's going to be forwardly placed. I thought there are a lot of ways to go. Team Merchants just won a stakes race in making with his first turf win. So let's go to you, Barry, for the Hollywood Derby. Where are we going?
Well, I figure if I'm in contention at this point or near the leaderboard, I kind of want to save face, because I'm sure I've used my
gotten a little crazy earlier.
Yeah. Right, or use the horses that I, at shorter prices that I wanted to before this point, and hoping to kind of at least just maintain at this point and hit the board, and if we get lucky and win, fine. But I landed on Flashiest. I think this horse has a lot of talent.
Yeah, he's good.
the pace scenario fits him perfectly. There should be plenty of speed here. And the Chad Brown runner is going to take a lot of money, public sector, and even his other horse could turn the tables on that one. So I'm not about taking a short price here. So, between those two, I have to decide. But that's where I'm kind of leaning. I mean, there's just enough speed here to set it up for somebody kind of closing. So hopefully that happens, and not everybody wants to take back today.
He kind of had to shift from inside and angle out. I've paid attention to this horse because in the ocean side, I loved him, and I got him big that day. And because it was funny, I watched the Turf Paradise race, and I went back. I was like, man, this horse is really got some ability. And then that's how it happens. You start following these horses like that. They went over to Saratoga, and that was just in a little too tough there. I mean, he was 40-1, and he didn't really get the kind of trip that he wanted. He was sitting a little bit closer than normal, kind of wide up
Tough
close.
draw. He's got a tough draw.
Yeah, and so it was just, if you just put a line through that race, everything else is solid. Last time out, he had a little bit of trouble. He was in a little sneaky too. Yeah, I'm with you. I have Flashiest in my top tier of horses to include in all exotics. How are you going to try to close this out here, Matt?
Yeah, so this is one where it's interesting. I think the safest bet is probably for public sector to hit the board. But the problem is I don't want to pay $8,500 for a horse to just hit the board.
Absolutely.
And that's the concern. And that's a lot of money if you're not necessarily entirely sure this is a horse that's going to win. That said, this horse won 4 of its last 5 times out. You mentioned earlier, Gino, Chad Brown's been having a lot of success shipping horses out west for these races in the winter at Del Mar. So certainly a lot to like there. I would say 2 places that I'm looking for some value. I actually like Beyond Brilliant, the 2-horse a little bit. That's a horse that really took a big step up in class last time out, went from a $72,000 allowance to the grade 2 Twilight, and ran a really competitive third behind Subconscious and Kafka Peak. And so I thought that was, particularly impressive considering that it didn't have a lot of turf background and experience before that second to last race. And so you're getting, 12-1 odds on a horse that is, $750 in StableDuel and has shown the ability to run with some of the favorites in this field. The other one that I'll just point out from a pure value standpoint, I think this is kind of a gate and post position compromised horse, is the 14. I love Stanton. I think that's a horse that is trending the right direction, but is taking a big step up in class. People who follow me know that I have a type, and that is a lightly raced horse with improving buyer speed figures. And because typically you can find a lot of value, but I don't know, especially coming out of the chute in that 14 post. I just feel like that's compromised. But
so you're telling me that if we see you out the movies this weekend, it's with a horse that's a lightly raced buyer speed figure. You're buying a popcorn.
That's my girl.
Taking the girl out afterwards for a dinner afterwards, a little bit extra. Right?
I will go broke or hit home runs with that strategy. It is. I mean, it really is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, sometimes they hit huge, and other times they just, it's too much of a step up. But that's where you can find value sometimes with horses that end up surprising because they've never had a chance to run at this level.
We've all got those types, Barry. Sometimes it's the bad girls when you're young. Maybe they lead you down the wrong direction. They try to get you doing those things that you shouldn't be doing, But for Matt, it's those lightly raced with the upgrading, the escalating buyer speed figures.
I love it. I can't say no. I can't say no.
Can't shut that one off. For me, I was in back-to-back races, and I think it was because one of the races was when we were on also Barry, I think. But one of the times I definitely tried to beat Camp Hope. And Camp Hope just beat me. And I was very, very impressed when he did. And so I've been keeping an eye on him. And so he's in a tough post in post 11. But what I like is how versatile his running style is. When you look in his last couple starts, he's shown a lot more speed. And I think those were just kind of in a case by case situation. In 2 starts back, he drew the rail. And so I think they just went on with it. And then last time out, he was sitting more towards the outside. And he was just kind of sitting, and just kind of moved to the lead and sort of took over without really being asked, and then went on with it. And I like that they've got options from the outside. So maybe they can go secure position, maybe they can take back, but they have shown the ability to win in multiple ways here, and to be able to pass horses or to be right up on the front end, which I don't think he's going to be in here because there are a couple others that are a lot quicker. So I feel like he'll be more mid-packing here, and I give Camp Hope a look. With honestly, the other two horses that you guys mentioned are definitely going to be in some of my exotics. Flashiest. Another one to mention is Zoffarelli, I think, who's had legitimate trouble in a couple starts. And one of these days, he's just going to get the trip, and he's good enough. He's good enough when he does. And this happens in turf racing where, one or two horses will get in trouble 3 or 4 times, and you forget about them, and you throw them to the side, and you wonder, is it trouble that they're causing? Is it themselves? Are they doing it? And then all of a sudden they get a smooth trip and they win at a really big price. So a great way to end the card here at Del Mar on Saturday. And keep in mind that the way that the Southern California racing schedule is right now, on Sunday, it's actually going to be the last day of Del Mar. And then after Sunday, they have a couple weeks at Los Alamitos, but there will be a good break right now, really, in Southern California. Nothing at Santa Anita till the day after Christmas. So for horses like this on the grass, this will help. This will be a really good thing, because this is something that Southern California really needs, is a break in between. We all watch football and baseball and basketball. You know what all those sports have? Seasons. Time off, right? Yeah. They have time off, and horses don't. They're always running year round. Individually, horses will be campaigned usually for a certain time. They'll start up and they'll have races mapped out. But just in general, for a circuit like Southern California that has been struggling with horse population, they need a few weeks off like this before the start of Santa Anita. So if you're playing on Sunday, there are a couple more StableDuel contests you can get in. A $5 Del Mar game, and then a $100 Del Mar game on Sunday. And there will also be mandatory payouts in all those pools. So like the pick 6, save a few bucks in your bankroll for Sunday, even if it's just a little bit, because you want to put in one small ticket. If that's the day that your opinion's right and you pick 5 or 6 winners in a row, heck, you're going to be very, very well rewarded. And what's nice is with StableDuel, today might be your day, and it might be a day where you don't even have one winner. You might be able to win a bunch of money with seconds and thirds all the way through, knowing that you have a strong opinion in a race where everyone else is going to go chalky and you don't like that horse, and they run last, but the horse you liked at 20-1 finishes second. You didn't really make a whole lot of money on it if you bet it in pari-mutually, but in StableDuel, you get rewarded. You're going to pick up those points, and you're going to be up on the leaderboard there. Matt, Barry, thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Matt, before we let you get out of here, tell the folks about some of the work that you have going on, the Win Play Show, some of the content that you have, where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at my handle @FailToMenace. I also have a podcast, The Win Play Show, which is both a YouTube channel you can subscribe to and a podcast that you can follow on the podcast platform of your choice. I do race previews of the greatest stakes races each week, have on guests from across the industry, had on Don and Brothers from NBC before the Breeders' Cup. That was a lot of fun. And then I also do like weekly race recaps as well, where I hold myself accountable and I go over what I got right, what I got wrong, and what I need to learn and what I need to tuck my tail between my legs and stop betting young horses with improving speed. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I have going on. And but to your point, there's no off season. So next week on to Aqueduct for me, and then on to down by where Barry is to Tampa Downs and all that good stuff.
Exactly. Barry, tell everybody out there where we can find you. Going in Circles podcast and Big Mondays, right?
Yes, absolutely. Big Mondays, that's our marquee show on goingincircles.com, and we're actually this week going to do some year-end Going in Circles Big Monday awards. Nice. So we're going to hand out some off-center awards. I'm with Chuck Simon,
Chuck was
former trainer. Yeah.
If you're listening to this show, which was largely handicapping, they'll do some handicapping on that show, but they'll give you really good hot button topics in the industry, like stuff that people are talking about online, but nobody in like media wants to address those topics. Right. Everybody dances around them because they don't want to address them. That's not what you get from Barry and from Chuck. They go head in. Chuck doesn't care. No, and from a great standpoint. He doesn't care if he says something and somebody's bothered by it because he wants the right information to be out there. He wants people to understand how things go. He knows it from a trainer standpoint. He's been in a lot of the meetings, in a lot of rooms that other people haven't. And when other people are saying things that aren't accurate, he can at least say, well, that's not how things work. That's not the way things
exactly.
Go,
and that's a great angle because, us normal bettors really don't have that kind of access.
Yeah.
And he knows the business in and out, top to bottom. So, he's taught me a lot of things, and from the betting and wagering side, I've taught him a lot of things, and, we're constantly sharing ideas, and we're going to put them out there for everybody to listen to. And we're always inviting feedback. So anytime anything comes up, you can always reach out to us. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Urban Handicapper. You can hit us there or on the website. So, we just want to be for everybody. So, just a different kind of thing, not just handicapping, a little bit of that, but a lot of things with the issues too. Yeah. Trying to get everything out there.
A great show. Check them out. Put them in, both of these fellas' shows, in your podcast rotation. That's one thing. There's so much awesome content out there right now, more so than ever before. And anything that you watch, high level stuff like television, it's never been better. TV shows that you're watching on all the streaming services, everything is so good. Anytime that you spend a moment here with me on one of these live streams, with me on That's What G Said podcast, I'm always so thankful. In a weekend like this, Thanksgiving weekend, you can't say thank you, right? You can't say thank you enough to everyone out there, and to two of my very good friends who joined me again. Thanks to the both of you. And I would always direct everyone to go and check out these guys' shows. If you're ever handicapping the races, you need a little help, you're looking somewhere to go, but you haven't spent the time and you just need a blind follow, one of these two gentlemen will lead you in the right direction. And make sure to give a subscribe to That's What G Said podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Every single episode will have horse racing, but every single episode is much more than horse racing. We cover.
I can't wait till the Mandalorian comes back out.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, we got a few.
Horse player. That's how you know. I say Mandalorian. That was my first thought.
Funny. That's so. I'm getting.
Man, I love that show.
Me too. It's some good stuff. The Book of Boba Fett is coming out at the end of the month.
Oh man,
too.
this will be great.
I'll have those recaps for you too. So. Everything going on in the world of sports and pop culture, we've got over. That's What G Said, and you're going to hear from these two gentlemen a lot more on some of my shows, some of my live streams. I'll take advantage of them quite often so you can hear their voices. Great opinions from Matt and from Barry. Folks, you have plenty of time still, a couple hours to get your handicapping done. Get those StableDuel contests. Get in those contests. Get your lineups built. $150 to enter, and in the big game. And you will see some of us playing against you. Make sure you do. Big money up for grabs. Like you said, you don't have to win every single race. If you ever need any help, please reach out to me. I'd love to help you. Bree Mott, who is busy on Thanksgiving weekend. Shout out to Bree. She will help you out. She loves to interact with everyone on social media. Barry or Matt, I know if you had a question, either of them would love to help you out too. So good luck. Barry, you have an awesome weekend. Matt, you have an awesome rest of your weekend. And everyone out there, thanks so much for joining us again. Get those entries in and play, race, win.